Hey everyone, and welcome back to our quick class, The Data Driven Church, Part 2. In Part 1, we covered a few key church metrics that were all centered around growth. In this lesson, we cover the next section, which we call Weekend. And that's because the metrics within this section have a lot to do with what happens every weekend at your church. You know, I always say that every Sunday morning is the big day for the church. It's your main event. So it's absolutely essential that you track how you're doing each week in order to keep doing what you're already doing well, or make the necessary changes and adjustments that'll give you the growth results that you're looking for. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm super excited to get started. Are you ready? Yes? All right, here we go. Metric number 5 focuses on tracking your average weekly worship attendance. If your weekend worship attendance is your big day, then knowing the exact number of people who attend this service each weekend is extremely important. There's an old saying that you count people because people count. You need to understand and get a clear picture of who's in the audience each week so that you're able to track how well you're doing with growing this attendance. Again, don't think and feel, measure and count. Use ushers and greeters in order to get an accurate number of adults, young people, and children who attend each week. You can capture this data in Excel or some other type of tracking software. Then, analyze your weekly attendance each month in order to see how you're doing. Don't just let attendance exist month to month without making some necessary adjustments in order to help increase your audience size each weekend. Remember, you measure for 2 reasons: to see what needs to change and to see how the change went. Now, the next weekend metric is the average number of first-time guests. Now, you may have noticed that for each of these metrics within this section, I'm using average. And that's because your totals will change from week to week. And in order to get a healthy picture of what's going on each week, you need to take an average. This is definitely the case when we look at first-time guests. How many new faces are showing up each week for your weekend service? You definitely want to track this metric separately from your total weekly worship attendance. You want and need both, but you need to know how many first-time guests are in that total worship attendance number. First-time guest attendance is critical for every church because you can't increase membership if you're not getting new people to walk through your doors on Sunday. And if you're not increasing your membership, then that means you aren't making disciples, which is a fundamental biblical purpose for every church. Train your guest services team to expect and prepare for new people each week. Be sure you have a process that tracks first-time guest attendance, as well as a follow-up sequence process that helps you stay connected with those that have visited for the very first time. The number 7 metric is your average number of returning guests. Now, I'll admit, this metric is a little trickier to track, especially the larger your church gets and the more people that begin to attend your weekend service. It's a delicate metric because if you think about it from a guest perspective, they've already filled out a Connect card or a visitor form from last week or a few weeks ago, indicating that it was their first time. And now we're asking them to fill out the same card, this time just checking the second-time guest box. Again, it's delicate and I get it, but there really is a good reason as to why you like this information if you can get it. You see, studies have shown that first-time guests who return within the first 2 to 3 weeks after their initial visit, the percentage of them coming back a third time increases up to 67%. And that percentage keeps going up from there. This is because they've connected with your church and the service. And as long as you continue giving them the same experience, the likelihood of them attending regularly continues to go up. So what's a good way to get this data? One idea is to combine first and second time guest experiences together. This means that everything that you might do for first-time guests, you do for second-time guests as well. I've seen pastors say something like, "We'd like to welcome all of our guests, whether it's your first or second time to Cross Church. This service is our gift to you, and if you bring your Connect card to our guest table in the lobby, we have a special gift waiting just for you." The guest services team still uses their process to get information from first-time guests, and returning guests know that they're duplicating their information, but now they also have an incentive of a second gift for their troubles. Obviously, it helps if your welcome gift is something cool that people would like two of. Again, there may be a better way of getting this information, and a good place to ask other churches is within our free Facebook group called the Cherbis Help Desk. Our members aren't shy and they're awesome at sharing techniques and strategies that work for them within their ministry. Ultimately, you need to develop a strategy that works for you. But the bottom line is that you want to make sure that your weekend service is connecting with first-time guests and that they're returning after their initial visit. So then the final metric in the weekend section that you should be tracking is the average number of returning guests that stick, or the number of people who begin attending service regularly after having visited a few times. Metric number 6 and number 7 track your first and second time guests. This metric takes over from there and measures whether those guests have actually stuck and are now a regular part of your weekend crowd. This takes a little bit of math, but it's not hard. Let me show you what I mean. First, you need to specify your time period. In this example, I've used the entire year broken up by quarter, but you can easily do this by quarter and break it up into 3 months. You know your average weekend attendance. Remember, this was metric number 5, so you should now have a mechanism for tracking this number each week. And you also know your first and second time average guest attendance. Again, metrics 6 and 7. So let me show you what you know so far. We'll use my example here. In the first quarter, my church welcomes, on average, 92 people each week to our Sunday service. On average, 5 of those 92 people are first-time guests, and 3 of those people are returning for the second time. If you subtract the first and second-time guests from the average weekend attendance, you see that we have 84 people who are a mixture of members or what we call regular attenders. At this point, we need to take out our members in order to see just how many regular attenders are coming to our service each week. These are the individuals who simply come to church each week. They're not first-time or second-time guests, and they haven't taken that next step of becoming an active member of your church. Since we know our total membership, remember, I told you that metric number 1 was an important metric, this is the number that will go onto this row, which is 67. If we take out the membership of 67 from the total weekend attendance, which is 84, you see that our average regular attenders for this quarter was 17. This means that we averaged 17 people each week who weren't first or second time guests and who aren't part of our normal membership. That's an average of 17 people that simply come to church each week. Now, if we compare this number over the entire time period, you can see that the number grows each quarter. This tells us that the number of regular attenders is growing each quarter. And where would those additional attenders be coming from? They're the people that are actually sticking after attending your weekend service as first and second time guests. Obviously, the goal isn't just to have people filling up pews and seats each Sunday. The goal is to get those people to make deeper commitments along their discipleship journey. But this metric is designed to help you as a leader see if people are sticking after attending your weekend service for the first and second time. Once you can get them to stick, then you can help them move toward a deeper commitment to Christ. So that's it for part 2. Guys, we're halfway done, and I don't know about you, but I'm having a blast. If you've got questions about anything we've covered in this lesson or the previous one, be sure to email me or post your questions in our Facebook group. Be sure to check out part 3 of this class because it's all about tracking some essential financial metrics for your church. Church finances is one of those topics that affects everyone, yet can be a difficult conversation to have. But don't worry, because we're going to walk through it together. Okay, I'm out of here for now, but I'll meet you back in part 3 of the Data Driven Church.